Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Muhammad Fadzil bin Kamarudin. I'm from Pusat Jenis Pintar Negara Universiti Kebangsaan Malaysia. Ladies and gentlemen, today I would like to present to you the impact of differential instruction toward mathematical thinking process among gifted and talented students. Alright, so there are four definitions I want to outline here. So the first one is what is gifted and talented student. The second one is what is differential instruction, and what is gifted program in Malaysia, and what is mathematical thinking process. Alright, what is gifted and talented student? Student with a gift and talent perform. So that is a gifted student. They have the capability to perform at higher level compared to the others of the same age, experience, and sometimes environments in one or more domains. They require modification to their educational experience to learn, to realize their potential. These students with a gift and talent, they can come from all the racial, ethnic, cultural population as well as all economic strata. They require sufficient access to appropriate learning opportunity to realize their potential. They can learning and processing disorder that require specialized intervention and accommodation. They need support and guidance to develop socially and emotionally as well as in their area of talent. Therefore, they are good in intellectual, and some of them maybe they are very good in creative, social, perceptual, mental domain, muscular and motor, and also the physical domain. And some of them they are very good in talents. They are very good in academics, science and technology, art, social service, administration, business, game and athletic. Next, what is differential instruction? Differential instruction is tailoring instruction to meet individual needs. Whether teacher differentiate through the content, process, product, or the learning environment, the use of ongoing assessment and flexible groupings to make this a successful approach to the instruction. So this definition is come from the Carroll and Tomlinson 2017. Alright, some introduction about gifted program in Malaysia. Gifted program in Malaysia starts in 2011. So the institution is called as College Jenis Pintar Negara Universiti Kebangsaan Malaysia, KJPN. KJPN has used differential instruction as a kind of pedagogy in its teaching and learning activity. So the enrollment of students is through UKM 1, UKM 2, and also UKM 3. Alright, some process that has been outlined by Tony Scosa 2008 about mathematical thinking process. So I start with process number 1. We call it as connection. Okay, a student who is successful in making mathematical connection, they like to see how mathematical ideas are related. They can connect new problem to the old by asking, where have I seen a problem like this before, maybe. So like to see how mathematical idea or concept are connected to other subject and the real world. They can easily connect familiar idea to the new concept or skills. They like to know when other think of the solution strategy in different way. Process number 2 is representation. Representation. A student who is successful at representation, they has an unofficial list of way to represent a problem and its solution. They use a range of representation in expressing my thinking. For example, maybe by word, by drawing or picture, chart or other graph, maybe. And they use representation to help others to know exactly what he or she was thinking, or how he or she figured it out, and how the problem was solved. And they can easily move from one kind of representation to the another and know the right or the appropriate representation to use and when to use it. So that is representation process. third one is communication. A student who is successful at communicating mathematically. So they're able to explain their thinking clearly and concisely. They seek the clarification. They realize it's okay to struggle in math and make a mistake. When others come out with a new idea, ask them to explain or try to figure what that makes sense. That is process number 3. Process number 4 is reasoning and proof. A student who is successful at reasoning and proof, they can use data to test or to argue a conjecture. They can adequately explain the reason behind his or her mathematically thinking and can do more than just explain the procedure and summarize the answer. They know how to use the variety of reasoning method and proof, and then listen to the others' mathematical thinking. So some of these are process number 4, reasoning and proof. And the last process is they know how to solve the problem mathematically. A student who is successful for this part, they can show confidence in solving the problem. They can demonstrate persistence when encountering a difficult problem and doesn't give up. When given a familiar problem, they know what to do and can switch strategy if one is not working. Has an unofficial list of problem solving strategy to call upon when solving problem. The purpose of this study is we want to examine if the differential instruction has a beneficial effects on the mathematical thinking process of gifted and talented students. There are 2 objectives for this research. Number 1 is we want to identify the various aspects of differential instruction that are relevant to the mathematical thinking process. And number 2, we want to investigate the relationship between the several differential instruction components that are connected to the mathematical thinking process. Okay, here's some literature review for this research. Number 1 is Azizah 2020 is looking at the influence of different teaching implementation on student ability to think creatively and their ability to conduct more research on their own as a part of her dissertation. A study of a variety of teaching strategy was carried out to discover the flaws in the way each technique was carried out in practice. So according to this finding, student thinking process are better off even though they connect to the teaching in a different way. And number 2, Kettler 2014 has conducted an investigation to enhance the degree of critical thinking among the 4th grade students from the 3 high schools in Texas. According to the finding, a statistical significant difference exists between the gifted and general education students on the cornea critical thinking test and the critical thinking test on each of these tests. In the critical thinking process, the data indicate that there were no significant difference between the male and female. The critical thinking score of the children in these 3 schools did not differ statistically significant, and there were no statistically significant difference in the score of the student in the school that provide the gifted education program. Alright, so this is a research problem. Okay, is it essential for students to be able to perform mathematical thinking process to master the mathematics they are studying in the classroom? Through differential instruction, student characteristics such as interest, preparedness, readiness, and learning style are emphasized. Differential instruction is implemented in the classroom by the differentiation of the 4 factors that namely content, process, product, and environment. This teaching approach necessitates teacher providing activities that are relevant to the characteristics of the student they are teaching. There are numerous factors of the design of activity that require consideration, and these are follows: independence learning, openly express the idea, and taught, engaging activity, encouraging and supporting teacher, flexible grouping, and interactive and appropriate assessment. So, do these factors have favorable influence on the mathematical thinking process as well as the performance of gifted and talented students? So, this is a problem for this research. Alright, so the methodology for this research. This is a descriptive research. It's a quantitative study that uses survey method to ascertain the component of various activity in the differential instruction and the degree of interaction between this activity and the mathematical thinking process. The first data is about to find the effectiveness of differential instruction was gathered using questionnaire that assess student motivation for differential teaching in mathematics. The questionnaire was derived from the motivation orientation of differential instruction in English language teaching. The item was graded on a 5-point Likert scale from the strongly disagree to the strongly agree. The second data is about to measure the degree of using mathematical thinking process in solving mathematical problem. So it comprises of 2 mathematics texts that has been administered. The degree of which student master the mathematical thinking process influence the number of score student earn. Alright, so research sample. This questionnaire was delivered to 400 gifted and talented students enrolled in the secondary education program at Genius Pintar Negara Universiti Kebangsaan Malaysia. Simple random sampling was used to choose the sample. There were 140 level 2 students aged 15 to 70 years old and 50 level 1 student aged 14 to 15 years old and 70 foundation 3 student and 70 foundation 2 student and the last one 70 foundation 1 student. So here the result. The finding for this research. Okay, the first finding, the correlation between the component differential instruction and the score of mathematics semester 1. So it is statistically significant, predict the outcome for each variable, because we can see here the degree of correlation between component of differential instruction and the score of mathematics semester 1 in the table 1. A regression test was used to determine the strength of this relationship and the percentage of impact between these 2 variables. So this table summarizes the value of R and R squared as well as their associated significant level. The value of R reflects the degree of correlation between these 2 variables. Each component of differential instruction and the mathematics score for semester 1 demonstrate the student mastery of mathematical thinking process, while R square indicate that the percentage of effects and the significant value indicate how well the regression model predict the mathematical score. So as we know, if p value is less than 0.05, then it indicates that overall the regression model statistically significant predict the outcome of variable. According to table 1, the value of P1 is 0.000, which is less than 0.05. So then this model regression is statistically significant in predicting the outcome for each variable. Okay, this is figure number 1, the proportion of variance in mathematical thinking process. We can see here R square value is the proportion of variance in the dependent variables which can be predicted from the independent variable. So the dependent variable is a mathematical thinking process or the process, and independent variable is component of differential instruction. So the result indicate that each component specific differently in instruction provided in very substantial proportion to the mathematical thought process as a result of the mathematical examination score for semester 1. So we can see here independence learning, there was 94.2% openly expressed idea and thought, 77.4%, interesting activity 76.4%, encouraging and supporting teacher 73.8%, flexible grouping 72.7%, and interactive and appropriate assessment 85.4%. And next is table number 2. Table number 2 show the multiple regression model where all the predictor producer R square be equal to 0.999, and the value for F6 and 393 108,959.967,671, and P is less than 0.01. So it shows that all the component of differential teaching and has a substantial positive regression weight, suggesting that this student who score higher on this scale will project to perform higher on mathematical semester 1 after considering for the others model factors. So the correlation between the component differential instruction and the score of mathematics semester 2, I got the same result as mathematics semester 1. So you can see here all of this value is the same as what I got from mathematics semester 1. Okay, so I can conclude here is the finding indicate a strong correlation between differential instruction and mathematical thinking process. Thus, it can be concluded that differential instruction has a significant favorable influence on the mathematical thinking process. Alright, that's all. Thank you.